Good morning. It's the NBA Finals. We just had Game 3. The Bucks are roaring back. They're down 2-1. David Thorpe is here. This is Bring It In. Woo! Does it feel like we've been through a lot, right? It feels like these finals are getting intense. Are you up for it, David? Are you ready for the challenge?
What do you think?
I mean, I think so. You did a show last night. You're back a few hours later. Seem like you're killing it. Yeah. I guess my first little plug would be after the games, after every game of the finals, Rod and David are on Clubhouse. You should go listen live. It's also, we're sending it out recorded in the morning. That's a very good insight into Game 3. I listened to it while I was running today, learned a ton. There it is. We'll talk about a lot of those things. But first, David said on that show, and I took note because I'm an attentive colleague, that he would quit TrueHoop if we didn't talk about Hansel Emmanuel, AAU player. What's the deal here, David?
So basically, this young man has almost no left arm at all. I mean, it can't be even. It's a foot long, maybe. And he's this incredibly talented player. I don't know much more about it other than a couple years ago, the Florida Gators had a one-arm player, and he was good. Like, he was a scholarship player. This young guy looks like he's going to be a scholarship player. And so when you asked me the question just now, how am I doing? Like, this guy is chasing a dream with one arm. Like, what excuse do I have? I'm fine. I stayed up pretty late, got up early, whatever. I don't know enough about him to know if he's a high major player. He seems pretty damn talented and long. I love what sports sometimes really shows us heroes, even if you don't really know about him at first. This young man is a heroic person, and I now have a favorite high school player. Now that my son's graduated, and he might have overtaken my son anyway. I'm so impressed with him.
That's awesome. Okay, so good. You're not going to quit. That's good.
Yeah,
all right, we should talk about this player called Giannis Antetokounmpo.
Yes.
Well, I mean, it's hard to, the numbers are just kind of swirl around, and they're all so big, but for the record in Game 3, he had 41 points, making 14 of 21 two-pointers. He missed his only three-pointer, 13 of 17 from the free throw line, which is probably the most irreparable part of this. 13 rebounds, 6 assists, just 1 turnover and 1 steal in 38 minutes. What do we do about that?
You sound like Ross from Friends. I mean, goodness, he was just brilliant. He there are some guys who are like Chris Paul is this brilliant thinker. LeBron James is this brilliant thinker in this incredible athletic body that's incredibly skilled, and he brings a certain relentlessness to the game. Giannis is a warrior, and really can't score outside 11 inches except for the free throw line on occasion. Well, last night was more than an occasion, but he plays like he isn't all that talented and has to bring that kind of ferocity to be effective. Pretty good combination when you are 7 feet tall with a 7 whatever wingspan and super athletic and super powerful. Late in the game, he's matched up one-on-one with Jay Crowder, who was no shorty, right? No weakling. And he just destroys him in the post and hammer dunks it. Loose balls, he is digging like he's a terrier trying to find a bone. Like, I got to get that ball. And he's this incredibly gifted athlete. So, and then I think the most important thing is his willingness just to make easy plays, which is not something we've seen from him too often in this postseason and last postseason. So I'm working on an article. I'm pretty much done now. You got to edit it and I'll play with it once you edit it, where the Suns have to build a wall, but it's not going to be such an easy thing because Giannis is so willing now to be a screener and a cutter and a passer and a ball mover. That is a recipe for lots of success for him and the team. They've been successful when he hasn't been that way. So he wasn't the only story. We'll talk to some other guys, but it begins and ends with him. The coaching staff for the Suns, I want to ask you your opinion. I think Phoenix has the advantage of this extra night off because there's an extra night because of the All-Star game, the Major League All-Star game. I think it helps Phoenix because I think it's going to take them a full day to figure out what the fuck to do. Like, it's really hard to figure out how do we slow this guy down and not just give up 80 points to everybody else. It's not going to be easy.
This was the theme of your talk with Gerard was after games 1 and 2, the Bucks had a lot of obvious things they could improve, ways to refocus and adjust. Now that the Bucks are playing like they did in game 3, the Suns don't have, as you're arguing, obvious adjustments.
Yeah, so right, that's my argument. Was I thought there was low-hanging fruit that Coach Bud could tweak and adjust that didn't bring a ton of risk, in my opinion. As an example, lifting their drop coverage into the mid-range and giving up the potential blow-by for a layup against young Derrick Rose and young Russell Westbrook and young John Wall, disaster. But those guys weren't mid-range guys to begin with, so you could stay at the rim. But the Suns don't have those guys. Chris Paul isn't that guy. Devin Booker is better, but not great. Campaign is pretty sneaky. Cameron Johnson, Bridges, they're not guys that if you take away the mid-range can just blow by you to the rim and score effectively. And so I thought that was not an adjustment. They could just get better at that. I think going in, they knew they should do that, but players have to get comfortable with it a little bit. For Phoenix to make this adjustment of we got to slow down Giannis. We cannot give up 35 points, much less 40 plus on few possessions and expect to win. But to do that means you're leaving Middleton, Holiday, Connaughton, Lopez open, Portis, who's a good shooter.
Probably mostly Connaughton, though, right? Let's be honest.
I mean, they're going to have to make some decisions, right? Going into this game, in this game, there was one particular possession where in the first half, there was a loose ball, the Bucks got it, and they swung it to Connaughton, and Middleton's man left him to go help on Pat. Pat hit Middleton. Middleton had a wide open 3. He made it. That was a mistake. They should have stayed home in Middleton and stunt, fake the help to Connaughton, come back to Middleton, and make Pat beat you. But I think Pat's 50% both game 2 and 3. I think it was 2 or 4 from 3 both games. So I agree with you. I think it has to be Pat. It doesn't mean it'll work.
Also,
wide open threes are tough to give up.
He's also not going to take 15 threes. He's not going to, right? You can see so many times he could shoot threes and he's like, I don't know, let me drive this or let me hot potato this to somebody else. I just don't think he wants to have his John Starks 2 for 18 game.
I think you're right. And so the article that I titled for publication probably tomorrow is quoting Bud after before game 2 when he told his team play random. Mm-hmm. And so a random Pat Connaughton means, yeah, sometimes I'm going to shoot, sometimes I'm going to drive. He can dunk the ball. He is a marvelous athlete. And so they're going to have to account for him. And if they help towards him, well, now Drew, who played much better, Drew had his best game of the series, or Middleton's open, Lopez can shoot. Maybe it'll work, maybe it won't. But they can't, if they lose game 4, Phoenix, it has to be, we accomplished our mission of making Giannis into just a normal producer with normal efficiency, and they just kick their ass with other people. And then we'll go back to the drawing board. But it may work, and maybe they'll win because of it. But I don't think they can keep giving up 40, and that's what Giannis can keep getting if they play the way they're playing.
I just want to address Caleb's comment that I was just randomly throwing Knicks shade with my John Starks reference.
It wasn't random.
No, it wasn't random. It wasn't random at all because we hosted a party at my apartment to celebrate the Knicks' victory in that game. We knew they were going to win, and it was a total bummer. I'm pretty sure that was the same game with the OJ chase. I think I'm right in saying.
I watched that game. I watched the chase too.
And I was specifically upset by that. we were New Yorkers. We were living in New York City. That was 8th Street between B and C. We were ready to go run in the street and party. And fucking 2 for 18, man. Yeah, that's exactly what you don't want to do. But really, my bigger point was, we talk about this kind of psycho pathology of the shooter, right? Where some players are just willing to the killers, right, are willing to endure 16 misses or whatever without. You just live with the results, right? This is the Mamba mentality, whatever it is. Some players really are bothered by their misses, right? And Pat Connaughton ranks pretty high in my assessment of that, just from the number of times he moves the ball when he could shoot it. Okay, sorry, John Starks. Can we just talk for a second about Deandre Ayden? I just looked this up. I have this sense that in game ones of the playoffs, he was just catching tons of lobs and it looked easy. And then defenses kind of sorted out how to play the Suns a little better over the course of the series. Just for fun, I just looked it up. In game ones of these playoffs, Deandre Ayden is 37 of 48 from the floor. That's 77%. He has 83 points on 48 shots to go with 54 rebounds. It comes up now, though, because, in fact, it gets harder, right? They have actually made life a lot harder for him in this series, as in every other series he's played in. What do you see happening there?
Well, I think your point is good, but I will say the story of last night was, there's a couple of stories. Giannis is the lead. I thought Jrue Holiday was magnificent on both ends, which is not something he's been, and he wasn't at the start of this game. He was still kind of struggling in quarter one. Brilliant passing, brilliant defense. I thought he got some swagger back. I mean, he ended the game for the Bucks. He had 3 threes in the third in a short stretch, all kind of uncharacteristic threes, and that was nice to see. But the other narrative is Ayton's foul trouble. DeAndre Ayton was killing the Bucks. Now he was, I think, -6 for the game, but everyone else was -400. And it's not even, that stat isn't fair anyway, but I'm just saying he was a problem, Henry.
Oh, yeah.
Rolling, but posting smalls. The Bucks are not just switching. They're helping, recovering, but you can catch a guy on a seal in the help situation. And if Lopez or Portis or Giannis doesn't get back, well, then it's Giannis versus Holiday in the middle. And he was roasting him. He was terrific. Now, I also think that the Bucks are trying to target that. They're going after Ayton. Giannis himself is going to get a couple of fouls a game just because he's Giannis and he's attacking with all arms and elbows, and Ayton's putting his hands on him a little bit, and that's a foul. So I think as Phoenix looks at game 4, one of the things has to be, Chris Paul said in his post-game press conference, we've got to protect Ayton. We've got to build a better wall to protect him. He's our anchor on both ends of the court. But I also think that they need to go after Giannis more, making it harder on him. And one way to do it is to let Ayton go to work against him some, because I might draw some fouls on him. Ayton has really improved as a player. Yeah, he's a terrific player.
He's terrific. I think there's a little bit of a thing too. I'm just going to force the issue back to my game 1 point, but Chris Paul hypnotizes people. Like, Chris Paul puts the ball on the floor, and in game 1 against, every opponent, the Clippers, the Nuggets, the Lakers, you see this, 5 defenders are like, I'll be goddamned if this MVP candidate is going to beat me, right? Like, they're very focused on Chris Paul. That's when Ayton gets his first 3 easy buckets, right? Over the series, I'm sure they show video and say that you can't take that step towards Chris Paul all the time, right? It's just too easy.
Yeah, I mean, the Bucks did this with Trae Young and Clint Capella, in just the last series. The Brooklyn series was different. Ayton, they changed how Ayton gets into his pick and rolls. They changed angles. And I thought last night he took one. He had his first right hand dunk was I thought he screened and then got away from the screen and then had a wider angle. And that angle was something Lopez hadn't seen and accounted for. And I think Lopez would have blocked the shot had the angle not changed. So that was, may have been an accident. These things do happen randomly sometimes. But yeah, teams, it's the same team you're playing every game. So you get better where your help comes from, where you bump it. You tend to know it better. That's not to say that Ayton still isn't effective. He is. Other guys have to step up and do more. I think that Phoenix got bailed out. They earned it. 20-40 from 3 wins you pretty much every game you play when you have a good defense. But I thought, you asked me, is the series over or can the Bucks still win? And my answer was the Bucks have a lesser chance because they have to win, 4 or 5 games. It's not over. Like, I thought Milwaukee had made real progress and only lost in game 2 because this Phoenix shot so incredibly well. Of course, that can happen again. But I think the onus right now is on Phoenix, and I think they have a tougher road to hoe. If I told you Milwaukee wins game 2, I think they win the series. Milwaukee wins game 4, barring injury, I think they win the series. Game 4, we haven't had a great game yet. We've had a competitive game. Game 2 was competitive. Game 1 and 3 was not. we're going to have a game where someone plays A level, the other team plays A level. We haven't seen that yet. I'm looking forward to that. I hope it'll be game 4.
Yeah, this series is a little bit messing with us. Variance, I think, is the technical term for the fact that like you can run a perfect play and get a perfect shot and it just goes in half the time, right?
Yep.
Like that's just, and if it doesn't go in, multiply times 100, that's a game you lose. And everyone says you're an idiot, even though you're doing everything perfectly. It's just a night that you lost because you missed a bunch of shots, right? It's a huge factor in the game. I personally don't believe in God, but this is basically God took the game away from you, right? Just like the odds just didn't happen. It's like flipping a coin, right? So in this, there's these people who assess shot quality. There are a bunch of people who do it, but on Twitter, and they assess that the Bucks dominated shot quality, 88% likely to win, exactly identical number in games 2 and 3, but they lost game 2 by 10 and won game 3 by 20. Like, this is not about it's not always about adjustments, right? It's not always about better strategy or better performance. It's just like the shots fell, right? It could be that the Bucks were better in game 2 and they just didn't win.
Well, yeah. I mean, again, this is what I saw watching it live. Milwaukee missed a lot of easy shots, and those sometimes are coming from adjustments too. It always comes down to making shots. You can't win if you don't make shots. They're still not even at their best. They're just getting better. They're still rushing the paint a little too much, which is a little bit surprising. I think game 1, they were very nervous. They're getting quality looks and made them more. They made more threes in game 3. They made better shots in the paint than they more shots in the paint than they had before. And also, they are adjusting defensively. Well, Milwaukee is to what Phoenix has been running and made their shot qualities go down. Right? They made them in game 2, but Milwaukee is, I mean, they're doing what we call hard hedging more now. So let's say Lopez is guarding the screener. Screener sets a ball screen. Lopez is showing, like there is that big body, moving around, arms and legs, and then dropping afterwards. Whereas before it would just always drop. And I say before, I mean typically in the regular season. And that is that's throwing Phoenix's rhythm off a little bit. It's also getting big bodies on smaller guys. I didn't look up how many turnovers did Chris Paul have last night? He had 6 in game 2.
A lot, yeah. But
I don't know how many it was. I know he talked about after the game. He was upset about it. That's by design. There's risks to it. Number 1, having that big body out showing, Chris Paul can attack him and draw a foul, which I think you'll see more of, by the way. Monty talked about it. We got to get to the foul line more.
Okay. All that's true. But let me clear up one little thing here. Everything humans do, if the measure of shot quality is good, every coaching decision, every bit of training, every bit of passing, every bit of scheming, all of that goes into shot quality.
Right.
And then it's God, right? Like there is not, like, if the shot quality measure is good, and the second spectrum version of it is very good. That's not the one we have public, but like this is like Chris Paul in this spot with this defender at this distance, facing this way. All these things are included, right? Like there's just a moment the ball leaves your fingertips. Like it's all of that's baked in very well to shot quality. And then after that, there's nothing about it, any offense or defense decision that applies after that. It's just a ball in the air, right? Like, and that's where I think humans do a bad job explaining that humans aren't important, right? Like everybody's all this fucking work. And if the ball happens to go in, every story across the globe is that this human did this thing correctly. And like, sometimes it's just not true. Sometimes it's just not what happened, right? Sometimes it's just like maybe
I'm not arguing.
Did a lot of
with you at all. Right? Yeah, I'm not arguing. I totally get it. Going into this game, to your exact point, the document that I was sharing with Gerard to get ready for our post-game show began with number 1 mission for Milwaukee, have a second half lead. So they have to stop. They have to chase this brilliant, pragmatic IQ team. Yeah. Make them chase us. Let's see how they do. Yeah. I don't know how they would do. There are only a couple veterans that play, Crowder, Paul, that have been in these moments, right? Not at the finals even, but just high playoff games. The Suns didn't handle that moment very well. Those open shots, there's a variance, but there's also a pressure and a stress and anxiety. This is the whole key, is make these guys chase us a little bit. That's all that goes into it. And I'm definitely not saying Phoenix can't have another great shooting game, or just as likely. I mean, we've seen Milwaukee throw some stinker games up as shooters. I will say this though. I know you watched the game. Gerard and I were talking. You heard us talking on the radio on the show last night. Of course, Bobby Portis played great energy. Who would love to have everyone chant your name? 20,000 people chanting your name. I'd love to hear Dave when I'm mowing the lawn or whatever. You know. Yeah, it's easy to play well, and Giannis shot really good free throws when it was quiet. It was so
weird.
Quiet.
It was weird. Yeah,
it was weird.
You could hear like a few Phoenix people counting off in the distance. Like, oh,
I couldn't. That's funny though.
Yeah. All right. Let me. Okay. There was this moment. Every now and again, someone says something that really captivates you, like play random, right?
Yeah.
For me, this like I can't. I'm really stuck on Giannis checking himself out of the game 3.5 minutes into the game. He hit the free throw. If I think I'm right, 3.5 minutes into the game. This is one of the finest athletes on planet Earth. He could probably win an Olympic decathlon or join the soccer team, whatever. Like he's like, this is a tippity top athlete. He's had a couple of days rest. He's 3.5 minutes in. I don't even think he was sweating yet. And he waved his hand. He has to come out of the game. And we see on the camera, he sits for a bit. He seems to be doing some kind of breathing exercise. They give him the little heating pads to put on his quads, look like. And then he's up and he's pacing in the hallway. And it looks to me like he's trying to calm himself down, bring his heart rate down. He's like overhyped. Would you agree that's what we saw?
I mean, 100%. What I thought was he felt his heart beating rhythmically, which is scary, or just too fast.
Yeah.
He was anxious. He needed a blow. And right away when he asked her to come out, I thought exactly that. I thought he had to go to the bathroom. Then when he sat down, I realized that wasn't the case. And when no one worked with him, it wasn't a knee. I thought it's his heart, it's his breathing. And I saw him do those long breathing, those long deep breaths. He was trying to calm himself down, which is smart. But I was curious, what's going on here?
Actually, you know what? I did have a personal experience that made me feel a little bit like this, where we went mountain biking and it was like 14 degrees, and I got so cold I couldn't use the brakes, and I had a panic attack. I'm pretty sure I had panic. I literally couldn't. It was all just like traumatizing. I had to spend half an hour sitting in the car. They finished there. Everyone else was fine. I was like the big baby. But for a while in the car, I couldn't get my heart rate down. I was like, I looked like Giannis felt, right? I felt like Giannis looked. Anyway, so while that's happening, different thoughts are flowing through my head. One of them was, I just looked it up, June 12th, 2002. It was a Wednesday in New Jersey. Shaq and Kobe swept Nation Kids Nets, not far from where I'm talking right now. And that finals was so terrible. They didn't sell out the New Jersey games. I'm telling you, there were big chunks of empty seats. They had piped in sound. It was so embarrassing. But on the upside, by the time Shaq and Kobe are celebrating that little platform they install on the court, I was able to sit on the Lakers bench, which was, I guess, cool. But I noticed on my feet were basically every product they sell at GNC, just empty bottles of every kind of stimulant pregame. They all have these crazy names those creatine for sure, but they have all these super caffeine things. Also, there's Starbucks cups too, right? And I know since then a bunch of those things from GNC have been banned, right? And the FDA's weighed in. Okay, that's story number one. Story number two. I was friends with this player's personal trainer, and he was like, we just can't get him to stop doing 4 of these shots of some kind of pregame upper thing before every freaking game. And he's so hyped up, he can't even run a play. He doesn't even hear the coach. He's so amped up. Good player, but that was in my mind. And then finally, and this, I'm not supposing that Giannis has anything to do with this, but just for the record, I used to play a lot of pickup in Tompkins Square Park in the early 90s when it was a very rough, very druggy neighborhood. And there was a dude, a very good player who'd often be on the court, who would routinely, he'd yell to us. He's like, I got to get a blast. He would use cocaine mid-game. And then he'd have these little periods where he had to and he wasn't the only one on drugs for sure, but he'd have little periods where he had to walk around and calm himself down so he could focus enough to freaking play basketball, because he was too jacked up. It just, when I saw Giannis check himself out of the game, whether it was purely a mental health, anxiety attack, panic attack, or whether he's on even some of these supplements are just tons of caffeine. Mostly I was like, he doesn't look okay. Like, that's not okay. Like, he's, for a guy who's worked out so much and is so fit, like, this is a little scary to me. Like, I felt a little bad as a fan that on behalf of us, he's doing this to himself, whatever he's doing to get himself into this state.
Well, I mean, there's a pharmacological possibility. There's also, they talked with us some on the show, he gets himself so worked up. They're down 2-0. You know, they have to win game 3 or it's over. And, you know, he and the coach are going to get all the blame. I don't think he could envision another 40-plus point game. He certainly isn't the reason why they lost game 2. Or both. It could be both, but I know this. It's not ideal. He ended up playing pretty much the rest of the game until the game was over, blowout. But like that's not ideal. He's come out early. I think game 2. You could look it up. He came out earlier than I thought. I was surprised, and then didn't come out too much after that. But yeah, it's you know, someone there should be investigating something.
Well, think about how we started the show too, right? Like we're basically saying that like 70% energy Giannis is garbage. You know, like
yeah,
he's the definition of his success is ferocity, right? Like he needs to throw his body into people, over people, around people, like, and you know he's not going to beat you with threes, you know, which I think could lend itself to a very elevated state.
yeah. And it's I watched a lot of I taped the post-game pressers. So after Draw and I got done, I watched another maybe 25, 30 minutes. I didn't make it to Giannis. I have it on tape. Did anyone ask him why he came out?
I didn't hear it. I would like to. Oh, Jod with a yes. Oh, Jod, can you please join us and tell us about this? We'd love to hear this.
Yeah.
So he did, in fact, talk to someone asked him in the post-game presser, you know, you had to come out early. And he said, yeah, it was to get my heart rate down. Like I was too amped up. So I had to just like come in, get a blow, catch my breath, get the rhythm. And then I was quickly back into the game. And I think, you know, we talked about this on Friday and a little bit on last night's show, Coach. That is Giannis's, you know, that's his thing, right? Like I am the super hype, like hard work, energy guy, right? That's how I do what I need to do. But I'm sure all the physiologists can tell us there are diminishing returns for that, right? Like when you get your levels up, a crash inevitably comes, right? And that sort of like peaking and dipping body chemistry is probably not good overall in the long term. Like I ain't no doctor, so I couldn't tell you what, but that doesn't seem like it's a good thing long term.
Thank God I'm a doctor.
There's this is, in my opinion, this is why his free throw routine is so long. I think it's baked into his own personal view. He is not in a rush to get the ball. And then when he gets the ball, he takes those deep breaths, and then he takes a bunch of dribbles, and then he takes another deep breath. Like this is all, he's hyper aware of that heart rate, in my opinion.
I think he has a routine that is not about free throws, right? Like,
it's about flowing his heart. Yeah. I mean, he probably should be training with some Russian biathletes in the off season.
Seriously,
they're supposed to be maybe not Russian. Whoever dominates the winter sport of is the biathlon, right? Where they cross country ski and shoot.
And they shoot. Yep.
And I've read articles going back 25, 30 years about their exercise and lowering that heart rate down. He needs, I mean, clearly that's what he's trying to do. I don't think it's helping his free throw, although it did yesterday. I was so glad to see it too. And by the way, now that we're definitely getting a game 5, if Phoenix loses game 4 and Giannis shoots well from the line again in a silent atmosphere, they're going to set loudness records. Phoenix fans are going to realize we're the only way to win. Make sure he gets free throws. There's about to be an explosion of the counting in game 5.
There's research on this. The quiet arena screws up free throw shooting generally more. Like the loud one, people shoot the same as they ever do. But when it's quiet, people try to make a special effort to make it, and then the shooting percentage goes down. Usually, obviously, Giannis is an exception from this game, but I don't think. Go ahead.
I think Phoenix fans are lazy. They should be counting in Greek.
Oh.
Giannis isn't counting in English. They should be counting in Greek. They're not effective at all.
They should switch up their cadence for game
for
5.
Sure, they
like,
should
they went so fast so far. Slow it down now, so that he's all screwed up. Like you gotta vary, man. You gotta give him different looks. Like you're on defense, you can't give him the same thing all the
time. Free throw defense. That's always been a big part of basketball. Some guy on Twitter, I think, was totally right. Like they're trying to create a dramatic moment that embarrasses the refs. Is really what you're doing, right? You're trying to get to 10 and then have the ref look really stupid. It's so much more dramatic, like a missile launch to count down. Count down.
I told you they're lazy.
And then it's just silent. Like I feel like it's for drama. Like I mean, come on, they don't go like 8, 9, 10 liftoff.
Right, they go 3, 2, 1. Oh my God!
Then you gotta make the Jim Carrey sound from Dumb and Dumber. He says, "Want to hear the most? Have you ever heard the most annoying sound in the world?" They should be playing that exact sound when you get to 0, don't you think?
Wait, see, the problem is the NBA is going to send the Phoenix people a note. No, don't play that. That's embarrassing. They're gonna make.
I'm okay with that.
Right. Henry, have you done any like research, and I'm sure it exists, or read anything about, how when people have anxiety or anxiety attacks, right? Like often the way in which your body responds to that, you generally crash. You're exhausted if you had a high day of anxiety. By the end of the day, you're just wiped out and so tired. I wonder if it's similar effects if you're super hyped for a game because you're ultra competitive. Does that have a similar effect on your body?
Well, I don't know a lot about that drug, but I do have a prepared section of today's show about marijuana and performance, which dovetails rather nicely with what you just asked.
See, that's why the NBA doesn't test for marijuana, because like, nah, we need this. This is okay.
So let me just I'm 46 years old. When I'm 60, mark my words, we're gonna have a section of the show which is like cranky old man reads the paper and yells about it. Like, I'm too young. We're not doing that now. But I'm just gonna give a little tease. Today's New York Times has a story. Here it is. Judy's put it on the screen. Science doesn't support idea that marijuana aids athletes' performance. And then there's basically crappy, discredited older studies which are about like people like toking up and then going to perform. Like actually
that doesn't work.
Maybe it does help. Maybe in darts or something. I wouldn't rule it out, right? It's possible, but that's not what the concern was here, right? Like I am very moved by years ago. I asked one of David's competitors, a trainer who's worked with like a who's who of NBA players, what he knows about performance enhancing drugs in the NBA, and he said he knew a lot about it because like half of the top players in the NBA used the same drug, and I'm like, ooh, like what do you mean? And he's like, marijuana. And I'm like, yeah, that is performance enhancing. And he's like, well, my understanding of how statistics work is if half the best in the history of the game do the same thing, it's statistically extremely unlikely it hurts them. And we talked about it more. And I would direct you to this Bill Walton book where Bill Walton's like best friend and the heyday of Bill Walton wrote this like very thinly veiled explanation of like Bill Walton doing something late at night in his living room that wasn't exactly identified, but the rationale given there was like, this is a super overstimulating lifestyle, right? Like it's super loud in the arena. It's super competitive. It takes all kinds of psyching up to like throw your body into people who want to hurt you. And then when you leave the court, like people want to get in your wallet. They want to get in your pants. They want like there's like everything is amped up, and it's very hard to settle down after that, right? And then I have a prop. I don't know if you guys have ever read this book.
Body of Desire. I do know Michael Pollan. Well, not know.
This is an amazing book, and it's 4 chapters on 4 different like plants that have like evolved with humans. Kind of one of the chapters is on marijuana, and in a nutshell, someone probably listening to this will be like, Henry, this is a dumb way to assess the research, but as I recall it, Nixon wanted to demonize marijuana and funded a bunch of research into like what happened in your brain. What they found was that it wasn't all what Nixon thought, and a lot of it seemed to be beneficial. And one of the key factors was like your brain is focused on a lot of things, and what they refer to as the cannabinoid network of your brain had the ability to like tune out the vast majority of them, right? So this is why people who are high listening to music are like, oh my God, the music sounds so amazing. It's because this is the moment when they're not kind of also thinking about work and kind of also thinking about their kids, whatever. They're just like listening to the music, right? So I could see how if you're in a very jacked up state from being in an NBA stadium, honestly, just as a journalist, you become all fired up, right? Like, I could see that it could be performance enhancing over the long term, not like I'm high while I'm playing, but in terms of like, I've had a week of a better cycle of rest and focus and whatever than if I did.
Well, that's it. You hit the nail on the head right there. What is it that matters primarily for athletes is recovery, right? That's how they're able to continue to perform at a high level. Well, marijuana probably helps you recover pretty well, right? It certainly brings you down and gets you into a calmer state so that you can recover.
It might be bad. Like it might be that like, meditating's far better, or it might be that like the known things that, and there's the WADA research has some mention of like, motor skills that are declining or whatever. Like those factors could be real, but it might be like okay, here's my other thing. Why does WADA ban this one, right? We have this question about a bunch of things. Caffeine is definitely performance enhancing, but it's allowed. I would argue it's allowed because all the fans use it and therefore no one's going to complain, right? I think that, and I've heard now 2 or 3 Sha'Carri Richardson stories from different really good podcasts going into the science of it. But I think I think it's a little crazy to omit the money angle here, right? Like the Olympics and the NBA have giant alcohol sponsors, right? This is a very big business, much bigger than the NBA or the Olympics. And I think there's a little bit of like, well, if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. But I think we're going to see in the future, giant marijuana industry will develop. It will become an Olympic sponsor. And
it's all good.
It's all good.
We were right all along.
So you're saying that this is negotiating. This is leverage by the Olympics. Okay, your offer of $1 billion sponsor wasn't enough. You need to kick that up a notch.
I don't think it's quite as transparent as that, but I think that like they're actively on the take from the people who started the Partnership for a Drug-Free America, which distorted science to make it like alcohol's fine, but this is definitely gonna kill you, right? Like we got decades of that, right? The science was not behind banning marijuana, right? Okay, Kayla's bringing up my favorite point here. Snoop Dogg is suddenly all over beer commercials.
Yeah.
Man, most associated with marijuana in global history. I'm telling you, InBev, which owns Corona, has made some early investments in the marijuana industry. Like, this is their guy. He's going to pivot a little bit as the industry pivots. And he's already associated with like relaxing on a beach and saying things that don't totally add
up. Smart move.
Serving a never-ending supply of bottles of beer out of one bucket.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Shouts to the capitalist machine. We know how that game works.
Listen, I not to take the talk off of basketball, but so I've never done it. No idea what it feels like to use marijuana. But I've heard stories, including like it chills you out. Did you all see what happened in England after Italy beat them on penalty kicks last night?
I imagine quite a lot. Yeah.
The English fans just beating the shit out of Italian fans.
I didn't see that part.
I mean, like it as terrible as divided as America is and should be. We should be dividing against insurrectionists and so forth. I don't think Phoenix fans got their ass kicked last night when they walked out, and wouldn't have had they won the game, is my guess. It was brutal. I had to turn it off. I felt so terrible. Henry, guys were running for their lives. These Italian fans were running for their lives in the stadium still.
Yeah.
In the stadium, running away. And my guess is those were drunk motherfucking UK fans, not stoned.
Hooligans. Henry, how are you feeling after Euros, my man? England loses on penalties. All your fellow countrymen making bad, remarks about the black players on England. Now they're beating up Italian fans. What's going on in England?
Honestly, okay, I don't follow the team. I don't follow the sport. Like,
you're like, I hate football.
But I did, and I forgot to DVR it, and we were out, and I came home and I turned it on, thinking like, oh no. Like, I mean, obviously you can get it on demand somehow, but I turned it on. The game went for so long that even though I missed by like 2 hours, it was still on. I'm like, all right. And honestly, my biggest, most traumatic thing was like the two white guys hit the penalty kicks, and then I know how racist English fans are gonna take this now. I'm like, oh my god, this is just the worst possible outcome.
I thought the same thing, and I never think that. I mean, all of our sports typically are pretty diverse now. I had the same thought live, and I was rooting against it.
I knew it immediately. I was like, it's going to be nasty. Here it comes. 3, 2.
And I don't think it'd be any better, by the way, if it was Italy, if that had happened to a Black Italian. I think it might be
they're awful there too. Would have been
that's what I thought. So all of it should be banned for 10 years.
Then I went through a little thing about thinking about the English people I know who are like, I mean, it's like Sixers fans, I guess, right? Where they're just like so unbelievably abused by their fandom, like just forever, right? For just so much hurt. And I was like, oh my God, I mean, in a way, this is like their best year, you know?
Yeah. Euro final, it's pretty good.
Like, you guys are just hurt.
Italy's a great team. Like I don't feel sorry for you.
So then this morning, the New York Times had a story about like, you know, like Italy's on the rebound after like, you know, this like just getting slaughtered by the pandemic. And they had like 4 examples of great things that are happening in Italy. And it was like the saddest 4 things you've ever seen. It was like they have someone on TikTok who's in the top 10 in TikTok followers. Like that made the list.
So you're grasping for straws there. Wait, and they had a finalist in the Wimbledon final. Marco, right. There you go.
Okay, I mean,
right.
That's like total global accomplishments. Like, yeah. Oh no, then they fucking won Eurovision. That was the other one. Like,
that's right.
Some Italian band won the competition that Will Ferrell made a movie to make fun of.
That really exists?
Yes.
Wow, I did not know that.
It's been a rough time for Italy. Been a rough time. Look at Judy, it's enchanting.
The movie I thought was stupid and funny. So we're thrilled to see the crowds. The Wembley was packed, Milwaukee Stadium packed, outside the stadium packed. The problem is inside the arena, we got the Delta variant hitting hard. I wouldn't be covering the games if you said to me, Henry, why don't you go, you know, catch a game? I would say no. You're trying to kill me. I'm not ready for that.
But you already quit, so what do we have to lose?
I felt
Olympics in Tokyo, no fans, right?
No fans,
spectators in Tokyo.
Good for them.
Yeah. There's also like this, like, you know, there are movies about British soccer hooligans beating people up, right? Like it's like a tradition, right? They're proud of it. And I think like they're just kind of like drunk white guys in packs, like beating the shit out of people. And then we kind of like, we're like, oh, boys will be boys. And it's like, it's a little, Green Street Hooligans, exactly right, Phil.
Yeah.
But it's just stupid.
It's stupid.
You know, right?
It's just stupid.
So that's what they say, boy. That's what they said about Trump and his comment, boys will be boys. Do we have that low an opinion of boys? I mean, have we sunk that low? My goodness.
I mean, over the history of the world, David, men are pretty bad. Like,
I understand.
By and large.
Yeah.
Drunk in packs, even worse, you know?
Yes.
They did. I think I remember saying that like Red Star Belgrade fans were organized into the militia that like brought Slobodan Milosevic to power. I think I remember.
Yeah, right.
That book, How Soccer Explains the World, by Franklin Foer, like these kind of gangs, like, you know, it's not different from the insurrection crowd, right? It's just like you just put a soccer jersey on everybody, right? It's the only difference.
Yeah.
Hey, so I want to talk about something that happened last night. I said on our show, the game is not over, but it's not looking good for Phoenix. Devin Booker's coming out.
Yeah.
And when I think about it now, it might have been his for the last time. Like, I don't think he came back in. He's walking towards his bench, but he's pretty far left of the screen. And Chris Paul is at midcourt.
Yeah.
And he comes in and he goes out of his way, significantly so, to kind of slap 5 to Devin Booker, which you don't have to do. Devin Booker wouldn't have been offended. Monty Williams not going to get mad at Chris Paul. How do you not slap 5 to a teammate? They don't always slap 5 to each other, depending on where you are on the court. He went out of his way to do that. Chris Paul gets maligned to some degree, and probably deservedly so, over the years, some things that he's done. I caught it like that he's being a good teammate there. And I watched him after the game, the press conference. Devin Booker was already talking.
And he joined them. I was going to, double down on that. Yeah.
He came in late, and who knows why. There's nothing sinister about coming in late to the press conference. And he just quietly sits down. He is not about to hijack what Devin Booker's saying. And he's just looking at the stat sheet. He hadn't seen the stat sheet yet. He handled himself, I thought, very, very well. I'm not sure they'll win the series. We'll see. But it won't be because of anything Chris Paul is doing wrong that way. They're just getting outplayed. Last night anyway. It's only been one game. But he's, I don't get the impression Chris Paul is happy that he just made the finals. He's desperate to win, but not to the point where he was a maniac last night. It was one game. He handled himself very well, I thought.
I think for sure, Coach, that was I think I'm going to protect Devin Booker moment, right? Like, because Book didn't have a good game. And because normally, like when the order of operations of these press conferences is the player comes in, he's just waiting for his turn to go next. And I think in case there are any, crazy questions that are coming on Book, like I'm going to be here, let him know I have his back, right? So kind of like symbolic in that way. I thought it was great. This is who Chris is. And I think he's always been, and I mean this the most affectionate, like the I told you so, like old man since he was 15 years old, right? Like that's just who his personality is. When you're young, your peers at your age probably don't like that so much, right? It's not great being told what to do by someone who's the same age as you. But these guys like Book and Ayton, who probably had Chris Paul posters on their wall, this works for me now, right? I can do be the whole told you so big brother dad because these kids are 15 years younger than me or however much younger they are than him. So I think this works a little better for him.
I heard from someone who worked for a team that he used to be on that basically like he has a year. Like he shows up to a new team and everyone will take it for a year. And then they're just kind of
first year honeymoon.
Shut up. Too much.
Well, so here's Tyreese Halliburton was on with Zach Lowe and Windhurst last night after the game. And he told a great story. He said, you said, Gerard, he said, I had that guy's poster on my wall. Like, Chris Paul? Come on, right? He said, like game 2 or 3 this season, Halliburton is a rookie coming off the bench. Nowhere close to being the all-rookie player he ended up being. And he's just standing and watching the game, and Chris Paul takes a mid-range shot. And one of Halliburton's dumbass Kings teammates yells, "No way!" on a mid-range shot. As if, like, that's what you say when Shaq would shoot a 3, maybe. No way, right? He said Chris Paul looks right at Halliburton, eye to eye. And Halliburton is thinking, I can't show a sign of weakness, saying, like, he said it over here. He's like, I just have to take it. I'm a competitor too. But the rest of the game, like, Paul treated him terribly. Like, and Halliburton wanted to say, it wasn't me.
I didn't do it, sir.
That's the fucking power Chris Paul has in this league. Like, he did not let him forget it. I don't know what he said. Halliburton wanted to kind of rat on him, but no, that dude is laser focused. And he played well. He wasn't the reason why they lost last night. When you said protect Booker, he's also really protecting Ayton too. Chris Paul is super aware that this is a young man with enormous responsibility and no backup.
Well, that's the part that we talked about last night, Coach. Yeah,
right. That's what Gerard said accurately. Is Frank can't do it, so he is constantly praising DeAndre. I heard it wasn't always the case all season, but it is now.
I also, let's think about Booker here, right? Like, first of all, to the point about shot quality you were making earlier and variance, like Booker's just shooting better without changing anything, right? Like, this is not the new normal for Devin Booker, right? Guaranteed. I also feel like, and frankly, I would bet he'll have 2 incredible games left in the series, maybe more, right? It's not going to be one. Like, so the Suns have that in their back pocket a little bit, I would say. Also,
I'd push back a little bit on that.
Yeah, go ahead.
I don't think you're stupid for what you're saying. Booker I'm such a fan. I never was before this postseason. He's really a tremendous, tremendous scorer. And I don't think he's a ball hawk. Yeah. Like, there's a lot of young guys who suddenly make it and they just are volume guys. I don't feel that way. I think he's a smart basketball player, which makes him super dangerous because he's so talented as a weapon. but I do think the Bucks are getting better every game at just keeping more length and aggressiveness on Booker and Paul. And so I shouldn't say you're wrong, of course. He might have a great game. It might take more shots to get there. He's just not going to be as open as he's been. I also think the Suns have done a good job with Middleton. They're trying to keep Bridges on him. And I think Middleton sees Bridges' length more so than other players because he's longer in his head a little bit. He's not as quick to take some of these shots. Like there was a play yesterday, Henry, it's in a GIF I have for our article, where Middleton's one-on-one with Crowder on the left wing. Crowder's little. Like he ain't Bridges. Middleton plays a two-man game with Giannis. He gets to like the second box, extended left, maybe 6 feet, and just he makes a jump shot like he's in a gym by himself. I don't see that with Middleton there nearly as easily. That length with Bridges there, that length bothers him. So I think Milwaukee is trying to make things tougher on Booker. He is an amazing player. He's probably going to have a 30-plus point game. He just may take more shots to do it.
You're probably you might be right. But I guess I'm thinking more like the most likely thing is what has mostly happened, right? Like Devin Booker's been the alpha scorer on his whole life, and they've put length and in his face forever, right? And it was effective for a little while. Like it just seems like if he were to improve dramatically, he would be reaching his averages, right? So it seems it's not radical to predict that, you know.
And he's a guy that can get to the rim and score better than Paul. So if they try to take his mid-range game, he can surge a little bit past. I'm sure that Monty also is recognizing, just like Bud recognized, I've got to empower Drew. He got no shot. I've got to get him to never worry about missing. And I've got to come out of timeouts with stuff for him to make a play, which he did a couple of times last night beautifully. Holiday ended up passing, but great plays. I think Phoenix is thinking Ayden is going to get his through pick and roll, through transition, early posts, and through switches. Paul is Chris Paul. We got to make sure Booker's got lots of good looks with open space to get to the spots he likes, and maybe even find some matchups that he likes better when Milwaukee does switch. And that'd be smart by Phoenix too, because Booker, I mean, he's obviously integral to their offense. The offense kind of revolves around him.
And Ayden, I don't think I asked you this last night, Coach, is transition and pick and roll and post on switches, is that really the only way that you can get Ayden to accumulate points? And I'm asking because, as you mentioned earlier, like he's kind of an unstoppable piece for them, right? Like the Bucks really don't have an answer for him, but he doesn't do it in the same way Giannis does, right? Where he can get 42 and 18 and whatever. Like, are there other ways you can make sure Ayden has the ball? Because he's also a pretty good passer out to the corners as well.
Well, they're better when he's not posting up Lopez, but operating from the elbows and in. He made a jumper last night. He can make the floater too. Yes, you can use him as a passer. I think when you construct the fluid offense that either results from pick and roll and then playing, or precedes ultimately a pick and roll if you don't get a shot, one of the things you're constructing is, how do we get the ball to Ayden in the mid-range second box area? What you don't want to do, Sam Mitchell probably would post him. Mark Jackson, I think, would post him. Guys that old school thinkers, maybe think of Steve Clifford. Think of guys that are more conservative based. They might post up the big guy, Mike Malone. That's a mistake. I don't think against Lopez or even Portis, that's the best play. He'll bully wings for sure, though. That's easy. And that's to his credit. Like, he's growing as a player. And when you think about Ayden, he entered the league as the guy that wanted to shoot threes and thought he was all that on the perimeter. And addition by subtraction is a big part of player development. And then you slowly start adding things back. I wrote an article about this many months ago about James Wiseman. This is exactly what I might have even referenced Ayden. We can look it up and see. This is exactly what Wiseman needed. And then he got hurt. Literally, I think the next game. Keep it simpler and let him flourish that way. And Phoenix has done that beautifully with Ayden. But by no means should they never let him shoot threes going forward. He's got a nice looking shot. I think it's going to be part of his game when he's an all-star. he's going to be killing your switches and shooting threes to bring your big out, and also anchoring your defense and rebounding. He's an athletic dude inside.
Yeah.
He has to be accounted for on both ends.
He's a future all-star for
Sure. Like you can see it.
Yeah.
Did you, David, do you remember like a month ago or so, I was like, did Bobby Portis like intentionally fall on somebody? Who was it? I don't remember now. Remember this play?
I do. I don't remember who it was now. I did not think he intentionally
He did
fell.
not.
Did he fall on someone last night?
Yeah, he was.
Oh, he did.
He was
And that was
half on
intentional
Torrey
last
Craig.
night.
He was like kind of had Torrey Craig like his leg like pinned under him.
Yeah.
Bobby Portis is a big dude. Like,
Big.
Yeah.
like he's like the last guy who went up falling. And then he's kind of like, he has the option to get up, but instead he just kind of goes, and like throws his body on top of and you can see Torrey Craig is like, oh, for like there's a moment, I don't know, his elbow was getting pretty close to Torrey Craig's ear, and you can see Torrey Craig just being like, you can see Torrey Craig either I'm gonna lay here and get up in a second, or I'm going to kill you. Like those were like the only two choices.
Well, speaking of killing,
vulnerable.
when is Crowder and Portis going to start duking?
I know.
That's coming.
That's coming. I mean, if
If
this goes long, they're definitely fighting.
here's what will happen if the Phoenix fans get smart and start chanting J, that'll fire Crowder up, and then Bobby will be pissed. He's like, wait a second, no, it's supposed to be Bobby. And then they'll battle. That'll be fun to see. What do you think? Hey, so who do you think benefits most from this extra day off because of the All-Star break?
Oh, it's like I said last night, it's Phoenix for sure.
I think because
I think so too.
If you're Milwaukee, I want the next game Tuesday. Like we're on a roll right now, right?
Yeah.
Like Phoenix, that extra day is like, oh, because to your point, coach, we got to figure out what the hell are we going to do on defense?
Yeah.
Because this Giannis thing is a problem for us.
Three straight games. They've not never done it.
It's like I said. Oh, sorry, Henry. It's like I said. I think if you're Phoenix, turn this into a Pat Connaughton, Bobby Portis, PJ Tucker series, right? Like there's this old NFL Films clip of Bill Belichick in one of the Giant Super Bowls being like, "No, take the ball. It's not Burris. It's not Hakeem Nicks. Make this a Mario Manningham game, right? Go to the option they don't want to go to first." I mean, it didn't work out for Belichick in the Super Bowl, but football's a different game, right? One throw to a pass can matter. But make Pat Connaughton, to Henry's point, yeah, you shoot 15 threes. Bobby Portis, you shoot 10 threes. PJ Tucker, you shoot 8 threes. Let those, and if they beat you doing that, well, you were going to lose anyway. And I don't think that's a sustainable thing. That's, I think, where they got to go.
You're probably right. Although I think Milwaukee wants Giannis to play 150 minutes out of 48, right? Like the rest really helps that too, right? Like he needs to be.
Yeah. It's not like Milwaukee doesn't get help from the rest.
Oh yeah,
all their players. Like it's a physical series, but that's another advantage Phoenix gets. Milwaukee is the much more physical team. I don't mean in terms of bringing force, although they're bringing force. They're just bigger guys. So who was it? It might have been Bridges. Cam Johnson. Like I love Cam Johnson. He had the dunk of the finals.
Oh my gosh.
For sure. And I could talk about that for a few minutes, but he's physically getting beaten up.
Yeah.
That dude is living with a trainer.
Yeah.
Living like he was up at 6 a.m. in the ice bath with the trainers all day. This is taking a toll. And so the extra day helps him. Giannis's knee. I mean, I don't think Giannis, Gerard said last night, I agree with him. I don't think Giannis defensively side to side is quite back,
right,
but it's close enough where, I mean, he's having one of the greatest finals ever. And I think Gerard's right. I think Phoenix has to say, we can't lose because Giannis goes for 40-something on 20-something shots. We can't lose that. We got to, and it's easier said than done. And he will get involved in transition. And so early offense with him with a rebounding and running. But Milwaukee's playing a solid offense that they just didn't show much during the year. Lots more jazz, lots more movement, randomness, right? And it's just hard to scout randomness.
Cam Johnson had like Twitter's favorite play of the decade. But then another one, Dave, I thought of you, make 2 plays, right? Like he immediately scored again, which I thought was pretty cool.
Yeah. That dunk though made me think, great shooter, high basketball IQ, played at North Carolina, clearly athletic, and he wasn't top 10. Why?
Yeah.
Because he can't be an MVP. He can't be an MVP one day. I mean, What are teams doing? This guy, Bridges
That was
too.
the
That's
lowest
terrific.
score. If I looked at like the draft scores, like that was a D- on everybody's board. That
Really?
trading for
That's
that pick,
crazy.
like, and now 2 years later, he's
Finals, and he's playing meaningful minutes.
All right, we don't want to disappoint Judy on our day back in office.
really ever, yeah. So
No, I don't mind it some other days, but not today.
thank you, Gerard. Thank you, Dave. We'll see you guys soon.
Be safe.